we'll take some learnings from the game, obviously. The main one will be take your opportunities in front of goal, which has been a thing I've had to talk about too often.
It's the Brisbane Lions Fancast, back on a Monday morning after, well, a loss that has made every Lions fan out there angry, frustrated, hateful, upset, depressed, concerned, obviously concerned. A whole range of emotions because, well, we just pissed away top four hopes with another 1 point loss 2 weeks in a row where we've had the game in the palm of our hands with a brilliant first quarter. And then slowly let it slip with lack of intent, lack of composure, lack of goal awareness, all sorts of things. We'll obviously have a chat about where all the blame lies, and anyone that's been following the Brisbane Lions Fancast Twitter page over the last 48 hours will know that there has been a deep discussion about Chris Fagan and his role in the whole situation. But look, I don't know how much you want to actually chat about this game because I feel like it's just repeat. Last week I did say I was still buoyant after the loss. It wasn't the nature of the loss that worried me. It was the ramifications on our top four hopes. Whereas this week I'm not buoyant at all because it not only is a completely ruined top four, barring some sort of miracle win for West Coast next week. Go West Coast. It is a familiar tale that we've seen too many times from opening round against Carlton where we blitzed them and then let that one get pissed away. Freo to a lesser extent the week after. There's been numerous games and the last two have just been a carbon copy again. Patrick, you didn't end up making it to the game, but you said you were pretty glad all in all.
I've been a bit under the weather. Yeah, it's weird to go. It's funny how this week's loss has completely painted last week in a different light because I think in the fallout of last week, I was sitting here sort of saying, of all the losses we probably had in the last 3 years, that was one where you're all right, we got beaten by a good team, playing well, that's okay. But then you taint it with this performance, and it's just okay, cool. Because I think largely this, and not to sort of sound hyperbolic here, but this loss is the worst one we've had, at least since we've been covering been performing. What the fuck do we do? Podcasting, talking, chatting, whatever. We've lost grand finals. We've lost that 1 point game against Melbourne. We've had games where we haven't shown up. And I think this is probably the worst because I think the implications of this game and the tangible effect it's had on the season is the greatest we've had in terms of a single game in one of the two seasons we've covered. There's probably other ones prior to in the last, we've obviously had losses in the last 6 years of playing pretty good footy, preliminary finals, elimination finals, whatever. But there's always been a sense of finality to it. Whereas this one is sort of we lost. It really has cost us. And, had we not dropped the weekend or last week, we probably would end up finishing second. Maybe not probably, but good chance.
Yep.
So, and it's sort of okay, now we've just got to kind of keep going for at least 3 games, 2 games. It's far out. It feels nigh on impossible. But then the massive tease as well is then you look at some of the other results and you're okay, well, what is everyone really doing? What the hell is going on? Fremantle have cooked it as badly, if not worse than us. I was checking the scores yesterday and I'm okay, I wish we had a reliable team like Hawthorn where he's oh yeah, they'll win.
Yeah. And even but, you look at Carlton, who could have so easily just rolled over with everything going on with them, the injuries to key players and that just their whole situation. They could have easily just gone, you know what, that's it for us, bow out. But they showed up and didn't use anything as an excuse, and they, as Daniel Hoyne said, got it done. It was a get it done game, and they bloody got it done under all their duress. Whereas, us, we were meant to get it done. Mental fragility, whatever it is that is costing us again and again. And as you said, yeah, it is probably one of the more palpable losses because it is just this overarching sense of, all right, well, there's another year where we failed to deliver on what we know is possible. Well, maybe we don't because we haven't yet, succeeded where we think we should with this list that is touted by just about everyone as the best list in the competition. And here's a sixth season where we're going to fall short.
Yeah, well, I mean, in terms of the roller coaster of the season, I think where we're at with the list that we've got and the team that we're putting out is probably not that touted, most talented list as it is. If you look at, side by side to Collingwood and us, I think we had more players missing from the grand final than they did, all things considered. But that's sort of neither here nor there. The point is that we should be getting the job done, and I think there's factors and the amount of long-term injuries to senior players, although throughout the season, the youthfulness of the team has been really good. I think there are reasons why there's been that kind of high pressure drop off because these last couple of games have been really high pressure and really high stakes. And there has been a bit of a drop off from some players and also just a little bit as a collective, because I think over the course of the season, I'm trying to find a way, because it's not a thing that is easy to notice or something that is possibly even there, but it feels like there are senior players that are really kind of picking up the load for the younger players to kind of be able to express themselves and do what they're trying to do. And it's not super sustainable to be able to do that. And we've seen that in the last couple of weeks, I feel.
Yep.
Because there has been a little bit of drop off. People have been talking a little bit about Logan Morris, and Kai's been up and down, and Brain's been a bit up and down. And when you're picking up slack for people like Joyce, or when you got people playing out of position, even Zorko, you've probably got people making certain allowances. Even Ashcroft in the midfield a little bit. You kind of there's just a bit of nous that's missing. Where I think if you hadn't had full ass season out Link McCarthy or Gardner or things like that, where you can kind of go, all right, things are dropping off a little bit. We'll add in a bit of that. We'll add in a bit of that just to kind of provide a little bit more glue to the sort of structure of the team. I think that's had a big effect that's largely gone unnoticed because the young players have been playing well.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that they won't play well and they won't learn how to be glue players. But there's a few examples, because I use the term glue player a lot, probably not on this podcast because that sort of sounds a bit weird, but players that really kind of help with the structure. And I put people like Archie, Berry, and then of the younger ones, Wilmot and Fletcher in that. But it's when did Wilmot and Fletcher come into the team? And it's when it was a very solid, structured, stable environment for them to learn their role and learn how to perform their role and work around that. Whereas when it's fucking chaos, it can be really exciting and really fun, but you kind of lack that little bit of consistency, I think. And that's where I think the team's fallen down, because Harris is a bit out of form in the last couple of weeks and he looks pissed off. I think Hipwood is pretty underdone at the moment. And you've got kind of, let's say, the less brainy footballers, not talking about actual brain, but Joe Danaher and Charlie Cameron say, who don't quite know how to foster the kind of mentor, so they're trying to do too much. Because how often do we hear the young players talk about being mentored by people on the forward line? They never talk about Charlie Cameron or Danaher, really. They talk about Hipwood and stuff like that.
I think Logan Morris.
Although maybe I might be tripping though.
Logan Morris has talked about Charlie Cameron quite a bit as a mentor for him, and Kai as well. But I understand what you're saying. It's those sort of players, they get by through talent alone, and that's why they're in the team. They're not necessarily there for their leadership qualities and to foster the next brigade coming through. But if they can do that as well, brilliant. And we will obviously chat about Joe later in the show, because what sort of a game was that? It had just about everything. But yeah, Collingwood did a really good job of putting some names on the whiteboard before the game and getting the job done on them. So Harris being one of them. Collingwood play Harris really well. They had Will Hoskin-Elliott doing a job on him on the weekend. Previously, they've had, well, obviously, Frampton on him before. Zorko, Nick Dacos went to Zorko for good periods of the game as well to keep him busy. They obviously had steel side bottom running with Neil. So you take those, 3 pillars out, and then suddenly you are left to try and rely on the lesser lights to lift the team. And yeah, I guess at the start of the year, we didn't expect to be playing Logan Morris or Bruce Reville or Shadow Brain or Harry Sharp or any number of players that we've had coming in and out of the team this year, because we were relying on McCarthy being there all year and Kitty Coleman being there all year and Duday coming in. And well, we relied on having a whole host of key defenders that we haven't had. We've had to have bloody Eric Hipwood at centre half back. That's how decimated it's been at times. But it's not an excuse. Like I said, Carlton didn't use that as an excuse when they got the job done. So maybe there's lots of little reasons why all these sort of
Hey, let's
happens.
not mince words. They've used that as an excuse plenty of other times.
Yeah, that's true.
We weren't using that as an excuse for either of the Gold Coast games. So it's not using it as an excuse, and I don't think we have, because we've played largely pretty well since we've had the kind of wholesale changes. But yeah, go on.
It's just, yeah, and like I said, the temperature check on Lions fans at the moment is red hot. People are pissed because I think there's this overwhelming sense that here is another year where we failed to deliver, and is this the last year? I don't know. Maybe next year's the last year. I've still got hope for next year with players coming in and all that sort of stuff.
I don't know why anyone wouldn't have hope for next year. I don't. I find it funny because I've largely stayed off the socials, but you have a bit of a voyeur look, and I find it funny to see the people that have written off the season at every opportunity being the ones that are the most annoyed about it.
Yeah.
There's a twisted irony to that, and it's something that I sort of am like, I've been reasonably buoyant about the season on the whole, but I can kind of see it within the context of itself, and it sucks because there's not a lot of teams playing good footy at the moment. And there's a massive opportunity and a massive chasm that we could have taken full advantage of. But it's we've also had a pretty rough run too. I'd say almost, let's look at if we look at the top 8 teams, I think that potentially Carlton aside, we've had by far the worst injury run out of all of them. And to be where we were for as long as we were, and it sucks because it's a missed opportunity. So you're looking at the missed opportunity versus the actual likelihood of it happening to begin with. And no one was expecting it to happen. So it's I said I thought we finished third. So I have license to be more disappointed than the rest of you. But it's more, for the people that wrote us off, if you wrote us off, why are you then disappointed? I know that kind of sounds a bit chicken and eggy and a bit kind of high horsey, but it's pick what you're going to be invested in. And I know that sounds callous, but it's things happen like this sometimes, and it sucks.
Yeah, I think it is just that overwhelming sense of doom and gloom, and as I've sort of articulated on this podcast many a times, it's just that we're going to go down as one of those teams with the list to do it and walk away with nothing from it. And I know that is the greatest fear for a lot of Lions fans, and a lot of people are putting that forward as, are we going to turn into, St Kilda of, the late 2000s, the Bulldogs of the late 2000s, or Adelaide or whatever, just had everything at our disposal to win a premiership, the list, everything there, and just can't do it for whatever the reason is. Like I said, just mental fragility. I listed off on that Twitter a whole bunch of little things that have gone wrong from the grand final last year, including ACLs coming out the wazoo, Nicole Duncan's death. How much of an effect does that have? The off-season trip, the exhaustion of coming off that grand final, and the emotional and mental scarring from that. Being up for 9 weeks in a row takes its toll. Being up for 6 years in a row takes its toll as well. And maybe all that stuff combined is what it is. Maybe none of it matters, and they're elite athletes and they should just get the job done. But for whatever reason, we are just failing in the same way again and again. game after game, year after year, it seems. And it's too often this year that we've got away to a blistering lead and just squandered it. As soon as the tiniest bit of pressure comes on us, we turn to water and let them back in way too easily.
Yeah, I think it's a weird one to kind of understand. It's like we lack the ability to get that one mark that we need, like when we're under pressure, because we brought in and like our game style's changed vastly this year. So it's interesting to sort of see, and I understand like largely characteristic wise rhetoric around like, it's all the same, but like our game style's changed, our personnel has obviously changed, whether that's by design or not, and not would probably be the thing. But like, yeah, like you would want there to just be an ability, an out kick to go, okay, kick it here, take a mark, and then everyone just relax.
Yeah.
And then you're dealing with like a man on man kind of situation, and it's just work rate. So there's been, I'm sure there's been chat about, what gets said at quarter time, and the mental fragility is one thing, but it's also, was Craig McRae really complaining about having to come from behind to try and win this week? Probably not. Is it a mental fragility thing? Is it the way that football is? What is it?
Well, especially this season, we've seen so many comebacks and like a 3-goal lead. Every coach and media pundits touched on it. A 3-goal lead is nothing these days. It's easily brought back, and we saw it yesterday. And it took Lockie Schultz, who has been the most maligned trade pickup of the year for any club. 2 quick goals to him, 1 to McCreary, and it didn't help that we gave away 2 centre bounce free kicks to get those balls forward to get it going for them in the dying minutes. We just lacked any sort of composure. There was panic setting in. We're just giving away free kicks and just could not get the ball in our own terms at all. That you combine it with missed opportunities, especially in the third quarter. Loman, Rayner, Bailey, all missing very gettable shots.
Yeah.
Joe with some questionable decisions. And as soon as he missed that one in the fourth quarter, that would have put us, 4 goals in front? You just know.
He kicked it absolutely arrow straight.
You could
slightly off angle.
You could see it coming a mile away. As soon as he missed that, you just knew, like, he's lining up for goal. And you're like, all right, if he gets this, we're home. We're gonna scrape a win here. He misses this, and then you just know what Collingwood can do. Albeit they haven't been able to do it as much this year, but they've got it in their kit bag, and that they've got it over us. And they've got enormous belief, and their season is riding on, doing their bit in this game and then having other results go their way. But,
Which thankfully didn't.
Yeah, but, I mean, at the end of the day...
There was at least a sense of mutually assured destruction to it in the end. It kind of made me sleep easier last night, which is that bitterness? Possibly, but also I don't give a shit. So, I'm okay being bitter if I'm already bitter.
Yeah, I don't know how much more to say about this game. Yeah, it's just.
I thought
it's so disappointing.
I thought
it's
actually
so disappointing.
surprisingly we did pretty well on Nick Dacos in 2 of the 4 quarters, because he got 2 disposals in the first and the last quarter. So well done to whoever was doing that.
Well, Berry in the first quarter, then he goes off with a hamstring.
Berry and Fletcher, and then it was Fletcher and Sharpie, and
yeah.
So yeah, Berry missing was pretty big.
Well, it's no coincidence he goes off, and then second quarter, Nick Dacos just goes absolutely bunter and has probably one of the better first quarters of footy you'll see. And didn't the commentators remind us about it every chance? He's obviously kicked some fantastic.
Did you find it interesting that they, when he kicked the goal, kicked one of the goal of the year contenders? Let's not mince words, for the one where he ran through the middle, but they were like, "Oh, he's got elite speed to go with his elite talent," and I'm like, "What the fuck? Isn't the whole thing that he's super fast? Like, his disposal efficiency is about 40% over the season."
Yeah,
not quite, but it's like his main thing is his running ability, not necessarily his skill. But he's got, I don't know.
One pleasing thing is that Bobby Hill didn't tear us apart. I mean, if we did take away any sort of like Starcevic,
You asked for that. You said whoever's on Bobby Hill win that matchup, and that was probably the one we did.
yeah, it was the other small forwards that got us in the end, and I guess that's going to beg questions about team changes very
So
shortly.
it was funny because my brother sent me a message actually. So he said, "What the heck happened last night? Once again, I thought we were cruising as I was checking at the show. I guess he was playing a show or something like that. And then was just like, wait, what?" And I said, "We capitulated entirely." He said, "Yuck." And I said, "Somehow contrived to make Schultz look like an actual player for the first time this year."
Yeah.
So that was my assessment of the game. But yeah, I don't know. It's sort of like how much can you really do this to death? And is this what the game reviews are, where they're like, oh, well, the same things happen. We don't need to do this again. Everyone go out and get coffee and eggs Benedict.
I sure hope that's not what's happening. Votes is, it's going to be hard this week.
Hell,
Yeah. So for hopandbrewtours.com.au, book yourself a half a full day tour with Matt and Josh. Time to get some votes in, and it's a very hard week to do some votes because, let's be honest, I don't really want to. So, like, strangely enough, Dan O'Hare gets the 3. Dunkley the 2. Ashcroft the 1. For me. I thought Dunkley, one of the few that really digs in and is not really concentrating on his own game when things aren't going his way. He's trying to do everything he possibly can to get the team back into it, whereas you can sort of half tell when Lockie's not having the day that he wants, he starts concentrating on, well, what can I do to get myself back in the game, not sort of what's best for the team. And I'm sure that's not what he's thinking, but it does come across that way, whereas it's really tangible and you can see from Dunkley that he's trying to do everything he can for the team.
I reckon Neil gets votes in the Brownlow in this game.
No.
I reckon Dacos does.
Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting because they're both 22 2 goals and 25 and 2 goals.
Yeah.
So it'll be an interesting one. That it's going to be funny when one good quarter of footy gets you 3 Brownlow votes, but that'll be one to watch. Votes for me are, I mean, Jodan really, we'll talk about him, I'm sure. The absolute schizophrenic nature of the Joe Danaher. But 4 goals is really hard to argue in a game like that. Yeah, Dunkley 2 and Sorko 1 because people are having to like tag him out of games now.
Yeah.
Well, they're actually doing it, which is what I said. So maybe they listened to the obscure episode from fucking 3 months ago or whatever where I'm like, teams should be putting effort into Zorko.
He still had a decent game.
Yeah, of course. He was really good in the first quarter. But, yeah, what can you do?
The Cam Rayner run of terror has received a moment of rest.
What do you mean?
Well,
Like,
he had 8 good weeks in a row, and the last 2 he's been fairly quiet. So
random question, just completely aside. Allegedly, Christian Petrarca and Lachie Neale were spotted having luncheon.
Yeah, whatever.
Hypothetical: would you trade Melbourne, Zach Bailey, and Cam Rayner for Petrarca?
Oh.
Because anything other than yes is the wrong answer.
It's a tough one.
It's really not a tough one. I don't think that's in any way plausible or anything that's going to happen, but I just think that that kind of a trade is the sort of thing that would, let's say, make everybody quite buoyant about next season. And
I don't think there's much point thinking about it at all, anyway, to be fair.
Well, you never know. I wouldn't want to. If my coach, who was kind of a bit of a knobhead, because Simon Goodwin's a bit of a knobhead, came out and like irrevocably said that I would be playing at their club next year, that would make me mad.
Yeah.
I did read an interesting thing about. Did we talk about last week about the idea of like him going to tribunal or whatever to try and basically get out of his contract?
No.
Read something interesting like that, a bit like Paddy Ryder was threatening to do with the Essendon saga, but don't mess with Italian families.
Okay, sure.
Anyway, back to our team.
All right. The just to rub salt into the wounds here, the Twos suffered a close loss as well to Collingwood. Must be said, a very
Weren't Collingwood like bottom of the table?
yes, it must be said, a very depleted Twos lineup as well. Like we are, you think we're playing depth players in the AFL? Our Twos are really reaching at the moment, and no Dev. No Dev was a big loss. No Levi Ashcroft as well. Suddenly, there's leaving a massive hole. But only a couple of like AFL listed players. Lions, Fort had a good game. Jackson Pryor had another good game. Connor McKenna he was on the field. Kyle Dunkley had a really good game for us. Zach Ostelsky, he actually had probably one of his better games for the Twos. And then you're looking at, just fillers at this point.
Yep.
So
they ended the season in third, right?
I believe so. But yeah, let's have a look. With that in consideration, what sort of changes you want to make to the team for next week? Obviously, you'd have to say that Berry will be out. It didn't look bad, the hamstring, and from all accounts, it's not that bad.
Bless you, Monsieur.
Because he was walking off the ground, not a limp or a prop next to his name. He looked like he was fine, so they're saying hamstring awareness, but best to give him the week off as well. And I was going to say on paper a winnable game against Essendon. So Berry will come out. Sharp is definitely up in the air, and maybe others as well. So for me, I'm bringing. It's the last game. It's like, how much do you really want to be stuffing around with this team coming into finals? But Dev didn't play in the Twos because he was obviously like first emergency ready to go that afternoon. So he's next in line, midfielder for midfield or mid wing. So Dev comes in for Berry for me. He's been knocking on the door all year. Unless they really want to go with experience in which case they'll bring your mate Jared Lyons in. Sharp is coming straight up. Like Sharp didn't.
I don't know why would either one of those come in for Berry? Wouldn't it just be a wingman? Because Berry's been playing more of his time on the wing, right?
He still has mid time, and especially when there's a job to do. Yeah, I'm not giving Sharp another game because I thought he had a mare. Like anytime he touched the ball, it turned to shit. He fumbled. Not impressed.
I didn't think he was too bad.
Yeah, I wasn't impressed.
I think he got a lot of the ball in a time where he was under quite a lot of pressure, and particularly playing his first quarter for about half a season. I know it's probably like, why is he there if that's what's going to happen? But yeah, I thought he tackled well, and I mean he only got 2 tackles, but man, they were 2 good tackles.
I would bring in Noah Answorth before Sharp again, especially when we're getting hassled by small forwards. Like small forwards are chopping us up, and there's only one Brandon Starcevic, so we need someone else to. If we had Noah Answorth here on the weekend against a Lockie Schultz, is that going to make a difference? We'll never know, but just that type of defender who's also a bit versatile. It means we can move, Wilmot up onto a wing, or we can. There's just a little bit more movement there, so that's why I'm bringing him in, and Brain can sort of be the sub perhaps.
Yeah, Brain's a little bit. I think Brain and Morris are kind of struggling a little bit physically with the year. I feel, although maybe Brain less physically and more just like with the actual kind of tactical side of what's kind of going on, because he was obviously at fault for that final goal, but. Going to point blame. There's plenty places to point blame. I'm probably keeping Sharp in for Berry and just giving, Ashcroft more mid time. I don't really want to see. I mean, I don't mind seeing Dev in the team, but I don't think there's any point right at this point in time. And like I'm happy with Answorth coming in for Brain. Sort of. I don't know, Brain's he's a bit it's kind of messing a little bit with our kind of small, tall thing. But I also think that Zorko's a factor in that as well. But Zorko's undroppable because he's doing things that other players can't. So
Yeah.
it's a hard one. Yeah, whatever.
It will be an interesting selection, no matter what happens on Thursday night when the teams come out. It'll be very interesting to see what happens there. And we still got maybe Bruce to come back in a bit. I don't know. Maybe not. Stress factors to the fib could be the it for him. Jack Payne got pushed back. So every time we read news about Jack Payne, it was like, oh yeah, and he's tracking well, should be back for the last round, and now it's, oh no, he's not going to be back for the home and away season, and hopefully he'll get some sort of game time in before week 1 of the finals, which at this stage looks like it'll be Carlton at the Gabba in an elimination final. We know we've had one of those before, very famously. So yeah, Jack Payne would be good, but like how much?
Do we really need to give him a lead-in game? Like, why do we need to give him minutes going into a game? I don't know why.
Well, because he's been off for a while. Like, how long's he been missing now? 6-7 weeks? And Jack Payne he's not, for me, he's not a Harris Andrews who slots back in. He needs to warm into, like, he needs confidence. He needs time under his belt because he's not a natural footballer. He's an athlete turned into a footballer. So for me, I'd like to get him some sort of, even if it's half in the VFL or something, I'd just be worried.
Yeah, I suppose that's fair. I mean, I'd throw him back in. I'd give him that, like, this is the ultimate confidence. You're straight back in, boy.
Yeah, and I understand that as well, and it's probably more likely than not that's what's going to happen. But, you know, if week 1 finals we're up against Charlie Curnow and Harry Mackay, he's got a big job in front of him off a lot of time off of footy. So, you know, if we go into the elimination final, Charlie Curnow kicks 5 because Jack Payne's not, you know, he's trailing behind because he's exhausted by the third quarter. That's going to be a bit of a worry as well. So, but you know, that's we're forecasting way too far
Cross that bridge
ahead.
when we get there.
Yeah. 100%. All right. Do you want to get into all the questions?
Not really.
Okay. Well, we're going to.
Perfectly frank.
We're going to, because there is a stack. This first one, and I apologise to anyone if I don't get to your question, because they're everywhere at the moment across Instagram, Twitter, and just trying to like wade my way through what is actually a question and what is just general hatred and angst. So the first one does come from SpeakPipe, and anyone that sends through a voice memo on our SpeakPipe is always going to get on, because we love getting people involved in the show. And these questions are, of course, for Crisp Communications, crispcomms.co, giving you your free Brisbane Lions Fancast stickers. This one is anonymous, so let's see what they have to say.
Hey guys, just a few things I've noticed. There's no doubt that the Pies sort of had our number and our more experienced players. I mean, Cluggage and Bailey really sort of struggled to get into the game there a bit. I think Andrews had only 4 touches going into half time, so they really had his number throughout the game. I think Shadow really sort of stepped up a little bit more and took over that role. But one thing I've noticed though is that the start of the year when we were struggling, we didn't seem real cohesive, and everyone knows that. And coming out of the bye, we were getting around each other, celebrating goals a lot more. Like the players would run all the way down the field to congratulate someone. And we had that pressure, we had that fight, that energy to keep going. And, you know, it just seems like we've slipped back to those old ways just the start of the year, where we're not getting around each other. We seem a bit flat-footed. There's just no pressure. Your thoughts on the matter?
What do you think? There's sometimes it just feels like that manufactured energy, but you know, remember that game against the Gold Coast, and I'll remember it for as long as I can. The Zorko spoil on Ben King, and just the energy around something like that. That has sort of dropped off the last couple of weeks.
It does seem like they're not celebrating the little things as well as the big things, I suppose. The pressure thing's a little bit skewed because they threw up the pressure gauge. And like, you know, Collingwood were at a 250 and we're at a 200.
Yeah.
So it's like we're not our pressure wasn't not there. It's just whatever was the way we were utilizing that pressure wasn't working. And like you can have a through the roof pressure stat and still get cut apart. It just depends on how you press and the angles that you choose and stuff like that. So it's I think it's probably more the how we're applying pressure, more so the lack of pressure, because that can it doesn't pass the eye test sometimes.
One thing I will say is our tackle count has been really poor over the last couple of weeks.
Consistently been quite poor,
Yeah.
I think, across the season. And is that that's more so by comparison, right?
Well, I mean, just this game alone, tackles 70 to 40, so minus 30, and then tackles inside 50, 16 to 7. So you're minus 9 there as well. And that has been, a fairly common thread across the season. So that's not ideal.
No. Yeah, I think that has been something that we've been keeping an eye on. It had been in the losses. I think that, they were talking a lot about the uncontested mark being like the threshold to victory, but I think tackle differential and stuff like that is kind of arguably more important. How about like Collingwood's 100? I mean, until McCreary kicked that torpedo after the siren, but their 100% efficiency inside board 50 in the first quarter that just like kept them a little bit in it, which was really annoying. Unsustainable, but classic. Another one that I said last week of like, yes, something that wasn't given a free kick that was then given a fine where Danaher got tripped.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that Lipinski shot ended in a rushed behind or something like that. I'm pretty sure it might have.
Yeah, I can't recall.
1 point. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, I think it does feel a little bit. Maybe it is the sort of thing where the team does struggle with the weight of expectations. And maybe in the middle of the season, it was the case of just like a bit more free. They were kind of having fun with it. And then, the screws tighten up. Because, the last 2 rounds have been, we've talked about it though. Like the games leading into that were all pretty bloody important too. But I feel like it's sort of almost an element of if we'd say dropped the Sydney game and dropped the Suns game, it's like, oh, season's done.
Yeah.
No worries. Whereas now it's like, well, the season's. I don't think I don't think a team can win from outside of the top 4. I said it last year. I said it all through this year. I'm saying it now. I don't think that it's like. I don't think it's possible. 1 in 25. No,
especially
I'm not taking those odds ever.
Especially non-Victorian teams as well. Adelaide was the last to do it. So if
but they were under a different. They were under a different.
If any
final system as well.
Year is the year to do it. It's probably this year where, like, I don't know.
Well, the plethora of interstate teams as well, I think, could lead into it being less of a factor because you're looking at it going, well, who are you playing the losing final against? It's either going to be in Sydney or in Adelaide or whatever. I don't know. The path to finals is paved with shit intentions. Anyway, next question. Otherwise, we're going to be here forever.
Yeah, we certainly are. Matt, why are we so shit some days? Showed some good signs last night. Just need 4-quarter performance. I mean, why are we so shit? Don't really have the answer to that, Matt, unfortunately.
Well, I think it's he's answered his own question in the sense of saying, why are we so shit? We were good, but also not. It's more like, why can't we just be like not terrible all the time?
The prideful line on Instagram: if we have a club psychologist, why are we still so mentally fragile? Did we order our sports psych from Temu? And I'm not really sure about our sports psych. Like who?
So I noticed something during the week, right? Did you see when they were kind of talking about Carlton and all their injuries and stuff from the week before, and they showed their coaches box?
Mm.
Do you see how many people were in there?
1,000.
There was. I'm pretty sure I counted, and there were 15 people in there.
Yeah.
What?
There's a lot going on. Hey.
We have like 3 assistant coaches.
Yeah.
Like we have 1 line coach, then a stoppage coach, and it's like that's if you need indication of where the disparity, I think, between like footballing states and not footballing states are, that's where it is. Or teams with the budget ability of and I know that the soft cap and whatever this and that, but it's like if the difference is you're having to pay premium price for assistant coaches and stuff like that, then you're going to be digging into your soft cap far quicker than a Victorian club.
Maybe.
I think I made the comparison earlier on in the season when they were talking about trades, and they were saying, a mid-season trade is going to benefit Victorian clubs much more than it will interstate clubs, because if you're playing for St Kilda and they're doing shit like they always are, and Bulldogs come knocking, what's the difference between turning left and turning right? It's a similar sort of thing. How many of the assistant coaches are just a rolling ball of whatever going to all sorts of Melbourne clubs? Whereas, we've got Dale Morris and some of the other guys, and so but it's like, I think that's more so the room for improvement. It's like an impossibility because you're having to move people, families and stuff.
Yeah.
And people don't want to do that on, what we hear is like salaries that are, you could go in the media and have a better salary. So, Pendlebury said that about coaching this year. So I think that's where the largest, sorry, go on.
You just look at, no one wants the West Coast job. Like, how many people have pulled out of that West Coast job? Maybe because they're scared of, career suicide by taking a list that's not going to do anything for a few years, and also moving your family across the country as well. And
also just dealing with the West Australian press.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's the big that as well. But like club legends like Dean Cox and Ash Hansen have both said, yeah, nah. So, I mean, case in point right there. All right, Aaron, it's obvious that we lack composure. It's been like that for 6 years. Is it on-field direction or system or something else? He's gone on to say nothing Fagan can do in those last 5 minutes, but there is a system that needs to be practiced to ice games now. First crack last night, I don't know if you caught it, but Kingy...
Not a chance for me.
Yeah, it's one of those weeks where I am probably going to avoid...
I can barely stomach David King at the best of times.
Yeah.
I'm not stomaching him in like the kind of... I'm assuming buoyancy he has of where he's like, oh yeah, Western Bulldogs, they're fucking great.
Yeah.
And then like, being like, Lions, oh, they've fucked it. It's like, you're right. But also like, dude, you're a giant, huge, humongous meatball steak of a man with no neck, and you probably need to check your cholesterol.
There was, I mean, yes, agree, all that. They did show the last, couple of minutes from behind the goals and the difference between our setup and the Collingwood setup, and there's definitely things we could have done differently. Like, definitely things we could have done differently. When we had the lead, we still had 6 forwards, as opposed to them, forward of the ball when it was an inside 50 to Collingwood, and they've got, numbers around the contest. There was it is worth a watch just to see, definitely system and structures got pissed away.
I don't think I want to hate watch that.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think it's understandable, but it's like at the same time, when we tried to ice that game against Melbourne last year.
Yeah.
We didn't do it very well then, but
yeah.
I think it's the sort of thing where this is one of the funny things early on in the season where we're like, oh, brilliant, we got Darcy Gardner playing as a forward, so he can just run back and play as a 7th, and now it's like, well, his knee exploded.
Yeah.
So it's like, what are you expecting? Logan Morris, who looks absolutely out on his feet.
Yeah.
He's not really. I don't think Logan. No one would have expected Logan Morris to play this many games, but he looks exhausted.
Yeah, of course.
There's a reason why he's playing. Basically, maybe he's the true barometer, because he's playing a good first quarter and he's present in the first quarter, and then he's just ceases to exist because no preseason. He's how did Buckley on the couch last week describe the Holland boy? Like, he's got kind of like a pudgy.
Yeah, I can't really remember.
Doughy. He had a doughy body.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I'm not saying Logan Morris has a doughy body. I'm just saying that he's got a young body.
Yeah. And
he could do with another preseason. So that's what happens when you have players you're not expecting to play for more than half a season. So,
Jeremy, how many more beds can we shit? Hopefully not too many.
But, I mean, how many games have we got left?
Well, anywhere between 1 and 5. 4.
So basically, there's 2. We can do 2 more this season, max. Because there's next week and then one of the finals.
Yeah.
Whenever we shit the bed in the finals, that's the end.
Yeah.
So 2 is your answer, Jeremy.
It's funny, like, I remember back to the start of the year where Capish got in touch and this was his worst nightmare, and we've done it consistently to him, and I hope
we probably gave him false hope, poor
Yep.
Capish, because we had such a large swath of time where we didn't do it, and now it's like, here it is, opening round and round 23.
Christopher, and he's articulated what I have and what others have as well. Just more worried about us not winning a flag during this window would be a waste. Up there with the Ross Lyon Saints of 08 to 11 and, Freo from 12 to 15. You can throw a whole bunch of other clubs in there as well that have had great lists and done just about everything except win the flag.
Yeah, I think I did read something. It was like, where do you see your list in the next 5 years? And I think our list will be in pretty good shape in the next 5 years anyway. But Samson Kilda was chirping, being like, oh, since the Lockie Neal era, you've only played in one grand final. And I was like, thanks. It's not everyone that gets to play in 2 weeks, you dickhead. And he was like, oh, the Saints weren't built for long. I'm like, dude, it was a joke about you drawing a grand final. Just like, move on, you absolute halfwit. So, that is obviously a fear.
Yeah.
I think there's more sustainability rolled into that. Just due to the nature of like our older players are all like premium price players.
Yep.
So when they choose to move on or retire, that will open up like significant amount of like cashola, salary cap cashola. And cool. That's all right. We'll be fine. We're pretty sustainable.
Luke, and he's we might not see it eye on this one. Harry Sharp runs fast and heaps. What else does he provide?
Well, not a lot, because what opportunity has he got to show anything?
Yeah,
like I'm pretty adamant, and I understand. Like I'm judging him with probably pretty like non-harsh lenses. What would they be? They'd be like the opposite of transition lenses.
Yeah. I don't know.
No, maybe they would be transition lenses. That's one for anyone that's got those from the 1980s. Let us know. But I think it's pretty brutal to be like, hey, dude, come on in, second quarter, Collingwood MCG, and you're playing on Dacos. Have fun.
Yeah,
like that would be very hard. And I'm not saying that maybe better decisions could have been made.
Well,
have that be the thing.
And I guess you don't plan for Berry to go down. So he was thrown to the wolves, but he also didn't deliver for me. Anyway, all right.
Say that he was a little lamb.
Yes, definitely.
He's like escorted onto the field.
Or like in Jurassic Park, where that goat is just simply tied up for the T-Rex to just demolish. Nathan says, with Jones last week and Schultz this week getting off the chain late, do you think we should be looking at bringing in Noah Answorth to play a lockdown role on the opposition's best small forwards? We'll lose a little bit of creativity off halfback, but gain more defensively. And I guess we've already sort of touched on this a little bit, but it's the balancing act of bringing in a more defensive minded and losing someone like a Brain or.
What if we had him as the sub and bring him on in the last quarter?
Yeah, sure.
To put him on Gresham and be like, don't let that guy score 2 goals in the last quarter. Just like, be like, who's the guy that's done fuck all game? Go to him in the last quarter. Like that's the Master One strat. Let's do it. I'm in. Let's do it.
All right, let's go over to Twitter, where Twitter is a different universe, my friend, and I'll try and get through to the actual questions here in amongst all the hey, get rid of Chris Fagan gear. And like I said, if you we probably won't indulge too much of that chat today. If you want to get my thoughts on it anyway, head along to the Brisbane Lions Fancast Twitter, and I posted the Fagan manifesto, the mega thread there. So tried to articulate everything that was going through my mind at any chance, and got into some terse conversations with other fans, and I think we all just want the same thing but disagree on a few key matters. Anyway, Grop Jam. Chances. What are the chances this game will be the one that ends our season? Mentally hard to come back from that.
Well, it has.
Well, it's... Yeah.
Like, it has. There's no two ways around it, like... to lose that game and go, all right, well, we essentially mathematically can't finish in the top 4. It's the season's done. Whether we have to play more games, the season is essentially over.
Peter simply says, why?
Because they hate us.
Probably. Trade Insider, who has...
God, what fancies himself.
Yeah, we've got the official blue tick on Twitter.
Didn't Musk say that you could pay like $15 for that?
Yeah, he's paid for it.
So we know that Trade Insider at least has $15.
Yes. Are the players mentally weak or poorly coached?
Both, and also inexperience to a degree.
Yeah, I think on-field leadership has probably been the biggest issue for us, especially these last couple of weeks. Rather than the coach's box, because...
I think Harris Andrews has had a dip as well.
Yeah.
So that's... And he's probably our biggest on-field leader, so...
Miller time, how many learnings is enough learnings? Because we've been taking learnings.
Ask one of those people that's like a career student at uni, like the like 67-year-old woman that's doing her like 15th bachelor degree.
Mr. I, do we have any confidence going into finals? Thankfully, the EPL has started, so I now have 2 teams to let me down, so you can get along with him on that front. Confidence.
Yeah, to a degree, but the thing is that one of my teams always does well and the other one doesn't, and it always screws up the other one at always every different part of the season. So you end up with 2 teams coming second, and it's like, oh, cool. We're literally like 1 game from winning both. So cool.
So confidence heading into finals is definitely taken a big hit over the last couple of weeks.
It is at a premium low.
Yeah,
We'll still win a final. Like, we'll still win a final.
Maybe.
But, like... Yeah. But it's just like, okay, cool. Oh, how fun. I think as long as Western Bulldogs and Hawthorn finish 6th and 7th and eat each other, we're laughing.
Yeah,
because we don't have to play them until the grand final. So
Hawthorn scare me. S. McGrath, have they booked Vegas yet? Might as well. There you go. Don't worry about that.
I reckon pick a more cultured place to go to. Go to like Florence, or where's another place? It's like fuck. I don't know. Pick a place, Brooksy. Help me out here.
Anywhere other than Vegas.
Stonehenge.
Sure.
Edinburgh. Go to somewhere a bit dreary, a bit drab, like a bit of soul searching. Look into a fire.
Yeah.
Don't go to like Party Hub.
Well, I wonder if there will be a chat at the exit meetings going, hey, if you guys are planning a US trip, just fucking keep your WhatsApp off or something. I wonder if there will be a chat at the end of the year leading into holiday time, or...
If I was Chris Fagan, I'd be like, I'm coming with you. I'd Coach Carter that bad boy.
All right, let's move down. I'm trying to get through questions that aren't just bullshit. Loz, why did we let them just get out the front of stoppage all game?
Yeah, it's a good question. Because the one that wasn't doing the job wasn't doing their job, if that makes any sense. So if I'm going to use that as an example, if Lockie Neal has side bottom on him and Dunkley's doing whatever he's doing on someone, I'm assuming, and then you've got, I don't know, Ashcroft or McCluggage that is the one that are like, well, I can feasibly get the ball. Why doesn't Lockie Neal go and stand at the back of the stoppage? Stand at the back of the stoppage and be like, we'll have fun getting out of the front when you've got me and side bottom in the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, I think he had a bit of a dirty game.
I thought he was all right in the ruck, but he got towed up around the ground. Like Darcy Cameron was just marking everything.
Yep.
Yeah. There was definitely he's had a couple of poor weeks,
It was more just the fact that the tap work and stuff, like it was either good or they were getting absolutely clear run through the stoppage, and it was probably because they were doing that front thing. Also, that Nathan Buckley like just put it on his back and run through thing.
Yeah.
So, fuck that.
Phil, every game there's a quarter of footy where we get obliterated. Usually we still win, but not lately. Can someone please explain why it makes zero sense? And I guess there are those games in the middle of the 9-game winning streak, the Melbourne game, the St Kilda game, the West Coast game, where we ground out the win, and it was sort of earmarked as like a mature performance, a gritty win that mature teams just get done. And the last 2 weeks we haven't, and it's just a capitulation. And because we've left ourselves no margin for error, like just the ramifications just highlight it so much more as well. So
the funny thing is, I look at is like we're saying it's the second quarter, right?
yeah,
We conceded 3 goals in the second quarter, whereas in the last quarter we conceded 4, 5.
Yeah.
Like it's like I thought we kind of arrested control back in the second half of the second quarter quite well, and we really just it's been the last 10 minutes both games in the last 2 weeks.
yeah.
That's really, 3 goals. Cool. How good. Anyway, yeah, I don't like that quarter thing. Because the thing is that we're not holding. You're never going to be able to kind of perform for a full 4 quarters, even though that's kind of the old adage. But you can maintain for one,
Yeah.
or maintain for your time where your momentum is. But when you got a situation where they're just kicking at 100% efficiency inside 50 every time, it's sort of just like, what's with these statistical anomalies always happening?
Yeah.
It's got to be us. Are we just some sort of weird quantum mathematics genius that's like, we'll solve all your equations. Come on in. Play you into form? Lockie Schultz.
Step right up.
Darcy Moore looks like a world beater again. Anyway. Next
Gretzky,
question.
why do we struggle so much in red time? And that is a question that's plagued us for so long. So long. Not just this year, but yeah.
It's almost like it was kind of this week and last week, it was like pre-red time. It was just the end of the game, and I think it's just because we're tired. And I know that's a cop-out, but I've been critical of their training methods and their fitness at various times in the season, and I think it is showing a little bit.
Yeah. Fair crack sport. Why didn't Fags drop a few players earlier in the season? Some tough love might have helped, but it's too late now. There could be.
We didn't really have any players to bring in.
Yeah, and he could be referring to a bunch of people there, and there's a lot of Zach Bailey. A lot of Zach Bailey hate at the moment, and I can see why. Like, he got ran down again, and like how many times has he been run down now this season? It's
At least twice.
yeah, probably more than that. He got away with a don't argue in this game, and then immediately run down, and there was another one across the game as well. He's very frustrating, isn't he?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think so. It's just did you get like a funny sense of deja vu in that first quarter though when he was in the pocket?
Yes, of course.
He even did that thing where he was like, "Oh, I'll kick it,"
Yeah,
and like he centered the ball, which is that. I mean, that was a funny moment amidst a horrific endeavor. But yeah, he's frustrating. And Melbourne, do you want him? We'll give you him for Petrarca.
Jesus. I can't entertain that right now. My brain's not ready for that.
I'm just trying to give you a bit of happiness in your life.
Smokey, what is going on with our game management? We're far and away the best first quarter team in it, and they showed up the scores during the game. We are just best first quarter team by such a long way. But then
Like 150 points or something.
But find ourselves playing our worst when we're 4 goals up. 10 times we've done it. We've played poorly after getting 4 goals up, and we've gotten away with it 5 times.
Yeah, well, we should have been more than 4 goals up again.
Yeah.
Like, again, it's just like, it's not funny. It's like, oh, cool. 6 goals, 4. And I think we also kicked one out on the full or something like that. Or didn't make the... It's like, oh, put the ball through the sticks.
It's a big one, isn't it? And that leads
Yeah.
to one of Brad's questions. How do you feel hearing Fags during the week say that the boys weren't doing a whole lot of goal kicking practice because there's so many other things to train? Knowing that inaccuracy last week cost us a top 2 inaccuracy, this week will cost us top 4 and a grand final chance.
I find it hard to fathom that they're not doing this on their own time. And if they're not, they should be. Because it's their responsibility to not look like a bunch of fucking morons in front of goal. Like, it shouldn't necessarily be part of like team training, but it should be the thing that they're wanting to improve on. And if they're not wanting to improve on it, it's like that's a problem.
James Barron, are we getting it wrong at the selection table? Sharp seemed a big gamble given the stakes. Also, why is Charlie Cameron getting burned so often? Yeah, well, that's a question there as well. Yeah, we've chatted about Sharp. It was an interesting choice on such a big stage, big game that meant a lot. So
I don't like Sharp as a sub. I don't think that leans into his actual asset, which is his running.
yeah, no, I understand that as well. But yeah, the Charlie Cameron getting burned and that Joe Danaher one is the absolute epitome of it when he's running down the wing into the forward 50 and Charlie Cameron has got, 5 to 10 metres on his opponent streaming towards goal, which is when you kick it to Charlie Cameron, just kick it out in front, watch him do the rest. Joe decides to go a bounce, absolutely cooks it, and the whole thing's ruined.
So I've got a bit of sympathy for that passage of play because if you look at how Joe kicked the ball at Charlie Cameron in the last quarter, it was absolute munged it. So we really assuming that Joe Danaher is going to hit him late. Hit him lace out.
You don't have to hit him lace out, just anywhere in the vicinity out in front of him.
Yeah. I think Charlie Cameron should be leading back towards, and Joe Danaher should be just like under 8 style, just tapping the ball on the ground and running into an open goal. I think Charlie Cameron, oftentimes when he's in space and demanding the ball, he's actually leading into the space that the person wants to go to. So it kind of clogs things up and actually makes a decision harder to be made.
Yeah.
So I think that's a communication thing amongst the forward group. And I think it's as much on Charlie as it is on the player. Plus also, Charlie Cameron can't hit a set shot this year.
No, that's why you kick it out in front of him.
Yeah.
Last one, and once again, I apologise to anyone I didn't get questions to. It's just been too much to wade through it all. Neil, how will our mindset be for the finals? Likely to finish 5th with a home elimination. If we win, then away games against teams who are still beatable. Mammoth task, but there is still a little bit of hope.
Maybe it's that whole underdog story. We're like the millionaire underdog at the poker table.
Maybe.
What a compelling story that is.
All we can do is hope. We've gone on a winning streak before. We just need to do it again. If you want to be really, really simple about it. All right. I did.
Thank you for your questions. Sorry for being so dismissive of some of them.
I do remember seeing a question. I can't remember where or how it popped up, but it was interesting training method at Brighton Homes Arena. Get rid of the point post, and you simply just leave the goal post and wonder if that will help with accuracy at all.
I mean, maybe they need to do sort of things where maybe that would void humanitarian rights, like lashings.
Yeah,
if you miss,
that's
paintball gun. Like just Chris Fagan with a machine gun. Just if you miss, you're getting one. Maybe that's why Hipwood had to have keyhole surgery on his elbow. Paintball gun to the elbow. Got a staph infection. That's why he's so tired. Because I don't. Have you noticed his weird elbow guard?
Yeah, because he had that patch on it for a while and something.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that he's had keyhole surgery there because he got some weird scars up on his arm and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
I
right.
don't know what's been going on with that, but that was a Mrs. pickup.
Yeah,
So she's like, "Oh, he's had keyhole surgery on his elbow." I'm like, "Okay,
sure.
good eyes, jeez." So
All right.
yeah, interesting method, not for me.
All right. One game to go. Essendon, Gabba, Saturday night. Joe's 200th against the old mob. What's he going to produce for us this week? Who the hell knows? He does like playing Essendon. He generally plays pretty well against Essendon. And as we know, Essendon are officially done. So they've got nothing to play for, which could mean one of two things. They'll just rock up, get their paycheck and leave and not really care what happens to them. Or they are going to try and salvage a little bit of pride heading on into the off-season and give it their all. So who knows? I don't know which one I'd prefer.
Will Dyson Hepp will be there?
I mean, if you're not going to give him a game at Marvel to say goodbye to the fans, why would you give it to him at the Gabba? That is just piss poor, but that is Essendon.
Maybe it would be like because Brad Scott's like, "Oh, you had dreadlocks, so sure you like the coast. You must love Brisbane. Have your farewell game there."
That would be...
That's a stretch, but maybe that's the level we're dealing with here.
That's so dirty of Essendon. I can't stand Essendon at all, and that it just solidifies it.
It's very classless, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And like you can argue we didn't do the same thing for Daniel Rich. Didn't give him a
but if we weren't playing finals,
yeah,
of course we would have. Like, were you going to pick him in a grand final? Not a chance. Wheel Daniel Rich out this week. What's the worst that can happen? We finish 8th.
All right. We've spoken about changes coming into this game, whether there is or isn't. Berry will probably miss. Jack Payne's still a week away. It's going to be interesting to see what we come up against with Essendon because we haven't. It's one of those weird fixture anomalies. It's the first time we're playing them this year in the last round.
Be weird.
It is funny though that it's lined up with Joe's 200th. That is a little bit of nice timing.
Weird. Geelong also cooked it this week, didn't they?
Yeah, which made our loss even worse.
73-point swing.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny. Man, this season's weird, hey?
Yeah, it really is. And it's just sort of like you look at teams like the Bulldogs who win 3 or 4 in a row and then they'll just inexplicably lose by 40 or 50 points. You can't do that in finals. That's
just quietly. Quietly. The AFL fixturing is an idiot. We already know that. But so Friday night we've got Melbourne Collingwood, no stakes. Last game of the round we have Fremantle and Port Adelaide. By the time that game is done, Fremantle could be mathematically out of it.
Yep.
How dumb can you be? That you can just go, here's a game that has no bearing on anything at the start, and here's a game that has a lot of bearing, but could also have none. So we'll put it at the end when it could have none. That's so dumb.
To be fair, it would have been a nightmare to try and plan this season ahead as much as you could because it's just been a real roller coaster.
You can look at the teams and as they were at the time. Fremantle and Port Adelaide, Bulldog. They were hands were tied with the Bulldogs and Giants because it's at Ballarat, so they can't play it at night. But the writing's on the wall that the Essendon Brisbane one, Port Adelaide and Fremantle were always going to be the most important games. Like Stevie Wonder could tell you that. Is he still alive? Possibly. If he's not, he still could anyway from his tomb. Or from his weird, dark, blank existence.
Yeah, no, Stevie Wonder's still wondering.
Well, good. He could tell you. He could have told you. Not Melbourne Collingwood. And we've made jokes about that. But, like, God, imagine if we get to it and it's just like, oh, sorry, Fremantle. This is entirely futile. Would suck.
Yeah.
Thank God we're not Fremantle.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's one of those questions. Would you, like, at the end of the day, we'll probably walk away with the same amount of premierships as Fremantle this year, and this will be our 6th fucking try at it.
Yeah, I guess so. That's a bit of an obtuse comparison, but it's more just it's baffling. So baffling.
Yeah. I mean,
They should have put us on Friday night. They should have put them on. But whatever. Whatever. If they're going to do floating fixtures, they've done a pretty poor job of it. Because they only released a fixture 2 weeks ago.
yeah.
And even then, Stevie Wonder still could have told you that Collingwood and Melbourne was a long shot.
Honestly, I'm glad it's Saturday night because I got to work on Friday night, so I'll get to go. So, yay for me.
Yeah, the Pink Floyd.
Yeah. One final thought before we chuff off for the week and forget about football. The Dan Houston bump. What are your thoughts? Weeks, he's gone straight to the tribunal. Yeah, what do you reckon?
3 or 4.
Yeah, I think it's minimum 3 once you go to the tribunal. Thing is, he didn't bump him high, but he did knock him out.
Yeah, it's hard to see. It couldn't have happened to a nicer bloke. So, yeah. I mean, so did he hit his head on the ground and that's what knocked him out?
I think so. It's a big hit. It was Byron Pickett-esque.
Yeah, it was good. I love the commentary on it too. It sounded like a proper football game. Just throwing it out there, not a fan of Hutto and Howie. Too high on the frequency chart for me.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know. Don't really care.
Sure, righto. Fair enough. Sorry,
He'll get rubbed out, but that's sort of that. Will he play again for Port Adelaide? Well, he'd be foolish not to. He's not. Why would you want to go to Melbourne?
Yeah, it's an interesting question.
Surely the Melbourne players want to come to places like Brisbane.
Maybe. In exchange for Zach Bailey and Cam Rayner, I get you. All right, well, that'll do. I'm going to go and try not to think about footy for the rest of the week, but I know I will inevitably end up watching 360 Footy Classified. I know I'll end up doing it at some point, but at the moment, it's the last thing I want to think about.